So, in this video, let's go like this a bit. That's there. We're going to be talking about my terrible, absolutely horrible garbage experience with Linux Mint. And also, I'm really hoping that I can get Luke and Linus from Linus Tech Tips to see this and give some feedback just because I'm curious as to what they have to say, them having done the Linux challenge. So hopefully you guys can help them notice this, tweet this at them. I'm going to do that. I'll probably, like on a WAN show, buy something from them. And, what am I calling? Yeah, I'll buy something from them and they'll see it that way in a merch message. So, go back about a year and a half ago, maybe a little more now, maybe 2 years. And that's right at the time that I had to disappear from my channel because there was a big family emergency going on. So during that time, my computer was down, having issues. My phone had died, and so I needed a cheap, simple phone to use during that time. And I also wanted a computer that I could write my journal on. I didn't need to go on the internet. I wasn't worried about that. And, if I really needed to go online, I could borrow my mom's computer every once in a while to check in on some things. But I wanted a computer to do some basic journal writing in. And the first computer that I ended up using is this Dell computer right here. This is a really old, somebody picked up at this surplus sale. It's a Dell Latitude. This is not the offending machine. It's the, I forget which one this is. But the point is, I started using this, and it started having issues and having problems. So then, bring in this machine right here. I actually love this computer quite a bit. This is a Dell Latitude D600. You can see right there. So, both of these machines we had for quite a long time. And it was just like, oh, this happens to be lying around. Perfect. Because I'm busy helping family with stuff. I need something simple. Great. And with this D600 right here, we actually got it for a friend of, it's a friend of me, a friend of my mom, and we were helping her with some stuff. She's a very older person. So at the time we got this, 75, getting close to 80. And this had Windows XP put on it. That was the most up-to-date operating system it could support. And that's what the BYU surplus sale had put on there. By the way, I love that place. And so we got this for her, and we were putting Linux Mint on it because it should be more, it's going to be secure. Not only should it also be lighter and make the machine work better. So she would then be able to, go online and look up some of her favorite talk show things and listen to them, get some news on there, do a little bit of Googling if she ever needed to research some medicine or something, and email a few friends. Also write her life story, and which she was a typist back in the day using typewriters and whatnot, so should be pretty good at typing, and that didn't end up working out for her. And one of the things we did at that time, we have some neighbors who are super Linux savvy, and I've also got another friend who's Linux savvy as well. He uses Arch Linux. But so we had our super Linux savvy friends come over because there's a way to set up where like she could just plug in a USB drive into the back and her file would automatically be backed up to that USB drive for safety and security so that, it would be safer. She'd have a backup of it. And they did get that working. So anytime you plugged in a USB thing, it would back up. But it was too confusing for her. She couldn't remember even how to turn it on, which is just the power button. And like having a cursor for editing stuff didn't end up working out. It was confusing because like on a typewriter, you don't have a cursor. Whatever you type, it's there on the page. And if it's bad, you throw that page away and get a new one. So we had this for several years. And when the other Dell was having hiccups, I turned to this and I started using it with Linux Mint. I think we went with Cinnamon, but I'm not positive. And so at first the experience kind of seemed okay, but it was slow, which everything that I've ever heard says that Linux, since it's smaller and lighter than Windows, can make a system run a little and faster and breathe a little bit of new life into a system. And like, not that you're gonna do lots of gaming and all this amazing stuff with Linux. That's getting better, okay? Oh, and also I should say, I'll say this again at the end too, but I'm not faulting too much. Well, obviously it's somebody's fault. What I'm okay. These issues I am sure have been fixed by now. If they haven't been fixed, then I'm sure they are either working on fixing them, or if someone sees this, they will work on fixing it. For reasons I will explain at the end, Linux isn't really for me. I don't need it, so I'm not going to be going back, and you don't have to prove to me that it's fixed. But I am curious enough to find out what might have happened that, I would like some sort of an explanation just because I'm curious, because I like to learn. So it was like slow. And everything I've heard says it would make the system faster, but it didn't. Like, yeah, I could have my entire 8-character password typed in and clicked enter before the dots would load into the box. And like once they loaded, it already started loading up my profile for Linux. And oh boy, it was slow. And I wasn't trying to do much with this. Anyways, I didn't need to go on the internet. I just needed to be able to write in a word processing program from a journal. Ah, someone says hi. So, yeah, I need to focus. So I needed to write in a word processing program for my journal, and I needed to be able to, I also trying to get a screenwriting program called Faden to work. There is a Linux version of that. So that way I could be working on a movie script that I was working on at the time and, work on that with a friend as well. And a lot of this was centered around trying to get that working, and I wasn't able to. It was really tough. There was like some things missing. I don't remember what those things were, but coming from Windows, the best explanation I can give is it was something similar to a DLL, is the way I looked at these, whatever they were, the files. And they were like missing. And so I emailed the support of Faden, and he wasn't much help, but they were just straight up missing. And they were things that seemed like they should have been there from the beginning. And this became a big, huge, annoying, reoccurring theme throughout my entire short experience with Linux Mint. And this is not counting like the experience I had, a little bit of time I spent setting it up for our friend computer was originally intended for. And I absolutely love this machine and it's great, but not on Linux. So not only were those things missing, but it was slow, and I was trying to do other things. And at one point, it was prompting for a password to be able to access network settings and stuff and keep that secure. And that was, a good idea to keep it secure with all the family stuff that was going on. And so I set a password, right? But then at one point, we needed to change the password. And I went looking about how you'd go about do that. And there might have been a way to do this in command line, but it wasn't very obvious. Everything that I was reading on Google, borrowing my mom's computer to look it up, everything that I was reading was saying that you use this, I think it was called like Whale or something was the name of this program that should be included with Linux. And so, first of all, I know that I'm on Linux Mint. I do want the GUI focused option, and yeah, I was using Google, so maybe that tainted things. But I feel like it should be, if there was a command line option, it should have been offered alongside the GUI option, just in case. But so, you need to use this program called Whale to change your passwords. Well, guess what? Whale was not anywhere on my computer. I searched for it. I looked everywhere. It was not there. This is a major, huge problem. Okay, if you've got an operating system and you have the ability to set passwords for various things, you've got built-in ability to change it. Because if you can't change the password, you're going to have problems. If you forget it, if you need to change it because too many people now know the password and they're using it when they're not supposed to, you need that ability. It should be built in, but it wasn't there. This one worked out, though, because I was able to eventually find, download, and install, which is a very different experience than on Windows. You don't just double click something and it installs, but I forget if this was through the package manager or some other way, but I was able to download and I was able to install that. And we were able to change the necessary passwords. But why? Why wasn't it there? And why weren't those other things I needed for, why weren't those other things I needed for the screenwriting software to work? One moment. Man, I thought I was prepared for this. I'm just gonna check my email really quickly. So yeah, why were those things missing? And using it was slow, but it worked, and sort of. It was really slow, and okay. So I have found. I'm just seeing if there's anything in the email about this. Any details as would be possible. Seems like the required. Nope, that was in XP because I tried to get it running on XP first of all. Aha! Oh, here we go. Here's some more. Okay, so can I ask specifics of your Debian installation? So I finally found a working. Yeah, so libpng 16 was missing. And now I get fade in user i386 whatever. Yeah, it's probably going to be too fuzzy. Whatever the heck that is. There was a bunch of stuff missing. Yeah, I have Linux Mint Debian. After lots of trouble getting that working, I installed Vaden and using the install.sh from the tar.gz because the deb file says this package might be corrupt or you're not allowed to open it. Check file permissions for this file. If I open administrator package, I get a blank package installer window. Running the program does nothing, so I run it from terminal as your FAQ says and get fade in error while loading libpng. So the libpng was missing. Maybe I don't have the right version. I googled more stuff, and I'm kind of paraphrasing here. I can provide some of these pieces of email if anyone's really interested, or if it's necessary for anything. So I talked about that. Oops, no. There's lots of other weird stuff missing for other things. Like it didn't have Seahorse, that's what it was called. Not Whale, but Seahorse for resetting passwords. And I spent hours working on that. It also doesn't have. Ooh, I was just about to get to this. So, here's the thing. We hadn't touched this computer in a long time. And I was figuring this is a terrible experience, but could very possibly be an update to Linux Mint that's going to fix a lot of bugs, make things run smoother. There's probably an update after several years. Granted, I don't know how updating works on Linux Mint, if it's seamless in the background and you don't notice it, or if it's like Windows where it's like, oh, we're going to update now. Hey, you can update. But it was... So I went going about looking at how I would update this, seeing if the update would make my experience run smoother and better. And everything I found was saying that you need, first of all, it's a good idea to back up your system, so in case the update isn't compatible and causes problems, you can roll back to the previous backup. Oh, wow, that's a really great idea. I think Windows has something similar. Granted, I don't think it's perfect, but they've had something like that for a while. Good job, Linux. I like that. So what's this backup thing that you're talking about? This sounds awesome. So in order to make a backup, you're going to use the program called Timeshifter. Well, guess what? Timeshifter was missing. It was just not there at all. And I went looking for it. It wasn't there. And so I tried to install it from the package manager. It's not there either. The only thing in the package manager was something called Timeshifter, and it was about like recording TV. It was a DVR type application. And it was really, really horrible that, that was missing. And so then, with that missing, I was researching other stuff and trying to get fade and working off and on, and I probably got some details out of order, but I got to a point where there was something I was trying to install. It was either, I forget if it was for Faden or maybe it was for something else, but and this wasn't a package manager thing. It wasn't there. So I had to like install it through the command line, which I was trying to avoid. I've done some programming with GameMaker. I can figure out code if I absolutely. But as I was digging through the command line and doing stuff, I this thing wasn't working and it was missing, and it looked to me like it was just gone. Like the equivalent of this on Windows would be if you went to the developer's website for this program that you wanted to use and it was not there anymore and you couldn't get it. And you had to maybe go to some third-party website to get it, or perhaps the Wayback Machine could help you, but it wasn't there. It looked like it was just gone for good from this guy's server, or however Linux stores files in other places for you to download onto your computer, right? And in the process of trying to do this, and during this time period too, the package manager for some reason stopped like down files. It just wouldn't work. Clicking the installer, the open, whatever the button said, did absolutely nothing. It was pretty terrible. But I'm like, all right, I guess I'm not installing anything with the package manager anymore. It's not like I needed to anyways. Again, word processing and fade-in was going to be a bonus. If the machine could play a few games in my spare time, that was a bonus too. And so then I was looking at this other thing, package manager, nothing to do with this. So I'm looking at this, I'm trying to get it working, and I'm looking this up because I spent some time looking at the package manager, and I couldn't find anything about it. There was no answers or solutions, and like to go online and ask and be talking back and forth with people because this machine wasn't specifically going online. My phone couldn't go online. I had to borrow my mom's computer for that. I wasn't online a lot during this time period. And so, but in my research, nothing was coming up right away about package manager not working, so I moved on. So now I'm looking at how to get this other file downloaded and working, and they're saying if you can't get a file downloaded, it's not working, then try going and doing this thing where you check your download server thingy, whatever it was. I'm like, all right, how do I do that? And there was a GUI for it. This graphical interface was pretty terrible. It was well built, except for there was a big, huge, long list that I could have kept scrolling and scrolling of different servers to pick from, and it wasn't obvious which one to choose. There was some in France, I think Germany, all over the world, some in the US, some had like green bars that would turn red if they were bad or if they were good for connection, and it was a mess that I couldn't really tell which one to pick. I couldn't tell what would be best for me and what would meet my needs, like which servers are going to have the stuff I'm looking for. I really had no idea, so I'm just like, I'll pick one that has an American flag by it that's a green bar. There's several of them. I guess this one? Okay, fine. So I do that, and it didn't really solve the problem of getting this one file downloaded. So I'm pretty sure whatever the thing was that I was trying to download from the command terminal is just gone. It's no longer hosted anywhere. You can't find it. And something strange? The package manager started working. Like, eh! And this is frustrating because I was looking for a solution that wasn't even related to the package manager, and the answers for the solution did not come up in any of my Google searches about the package manager, and yet they fixed it. I've tried to, as I've worked this video over in my head multiple times, I've tried to think of a good Windows example. I don't really have one. I'm just gonna have to make one up. Like, oh, here's a good example. Imagine this, okay? Imagine the webcam on your laptop isn't working, and you spend hours and hours and hours and hours searching it, and it doesn't work. So you're like, okay, fine, I'm not gonna have a webcam. This is stupid. So you move on, and then you find out that there is an issue with MS Paint, and it's having trouble, and so you uninstall and you reinstall MS Paint, and your MS Paint problems, let's say, will be nice, and we'll say that MS Paint does start working again for you. And guess what? That was the solution to your webcam problem. Excuse me? That's what I felt like with this, and it was annoying and frustrating, and the whole thing was just being slow and terrible, and stuff was just missing. And you want to know what made this laptop work for me and made it better? Windows XP. Windows freaking XP. Outdated, old. I wasn't going online with it anyways, so that was fine, okay? It made the experience way smoother. Once I installed it, this computer ran and still does run amazing. There were a few other issues I had, like some of the hinges on the screen causing problems, and I had to fix those. But it ran great. It wasn't as fast as a modern computer, granted, but it was way faster than Linux. And I was able to install some old games that I used to play on there and play some of those in my spare time, and I was able to write in my journal. I did some extremely light video editing on this with Movie Maker, which I wouldn't have on Linux, and it just ran better. The worst problem that I had with Windows is there were two, maybe three times where it just like crashed and like froze with the screen on whatever I was on and had to restart and lose a little bit of my work. Or like every once in a while, Explorer.exe would crash and I'd have to restart that from the task manager. But the Windows experience on this was way better than my Linux Mint experience. I think it was Cinnamon. Oh, and also too, with that thing where you'd plug in a USB drive or storage device and it would back up those two specific files to that device. I went with my friends to try and get that stopped so that it wouldn't do that anymore. I don't remember if I tried deleting those files or not. I don't think I did. That could have been an easy solution. But I think it was my friend's dad who did that. And so I was working with my friend, so his son. He didn't remember specifically how they did that. And this isn't a specific fault with Windows, or sorry, with Linux. He couldn't remember how they set that up, so he couldn't figure out how to remove it. But that was a little bit annoying because anytime I plugged in like this phone that I was using or a flash drive, it'd back those two files up to there. And it wasn't a big deal anyways, too, because like they had one line, "Hi, my name is this," from our friend that didn't end up using the computer. But yeah, that's pretty much it for my terrible experience with Linux Mint. Stuff was just missing that should have been there from the beginning. And there's one thing where this guy said, somewhere in here, the guy from Faden said, it sounds like by the sounds, it sounds like possibly your installation itself is incomplete. It's difficult to diagnose Linux issues remotely, but it sounds like you have more than a few things missing. You know, exactly. And now, because like we clicked the download button on years ago on my mom's computer, we clicked the download button, put it onto a flash drive. We had it all set up for our friend to use, and it seemed fine. I don't know how the installation would have been incomplete. There were no errors, nothing obvious. And like, if these files were missing, I should have been able to find something about them online. I should have been able to find out where to download them. Because like, I was able to download the Seahorse thing, either Package Manager, I think it was, or some other way, and get the password changing working. So why wasn't I able to find Timeshifter? So, and you know, as I said in the beginning, I'm not super hard against Linux, you know. This was frustrating, but I really appreciate a lot of the stuff that Linux does. And I believe that like being lighter on certain machines can happen in certain instances. I just don't know why it happened for me. And I'm sure that, you know, they've already fixed this, or if they haven't, they're working on it as we speak, or they're going to work on it as soon as somebody finds out about this. And like, seriously, I might share this in a Linux community, see if anybody has any answers, because I'm just curious what happened. I'm not going to try it again. The programs that I run don't work on Linux. Like right now, I'm using Pinnacle Studio, but I'm working to transition to the Adobe suite. So, yeah, like using Linux just wouldn't be extremely beneficial for me right now. Plus, you know, I like Windows. It's just worked for me. There's been issues with Windows, okay? I've had some annoying stuff with Windows. Like I remember one time I was trying to get the Microsoft Toledo tunneling adapter or something to fix an issue. I don't know if it actually went. I never got that working. So Windows over the years for me has had hiccups and issues. But it was just an absolutely crazy experience with Linux that I think is really surprising. Why was this stuff just missing? So anyways, that's pretty much it for this video. Again, I am going to be trying to get Luke and Linus from Linus Tech Tips to see this. I'm going to be tweeting at them and various LNG people. And I'll probably like send them a message during one of the videos. And hopefully they see it. I want you guys to help me to get them noticed because I'm just curious about your feedback and input on this, guys. Since you guys did the Linux challenge, I'm curious what your thoughts are. I enjoyed that series. It was great. And, you know, I'm curious what you had to say about this. Maybe you have some insight as to what might have happened. Because, I don't know, it's hard to imagine that a file would be missing something when, like, you know, your Firefox says everything's downloaded great and it seemed to install just fine. Yeah, ironically, strange thing, once I put Windows XP on here, the machine ran almost flawlessly and I had a really great experience with it. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys in whatever's next. If you're here just because of Linux, kind of obvious, it's not my usual thing, but if you liked the video, leave a like down below. Feel free to comment with what you think might have happened, and I'll see you guys in